I don't think I have anything to start it.
You don't have anything to start it? Not that this upcoming episode is about to be so fetch.
I knew that there would be some one-liners, at least. There were a bunch of one-liners that I could have done, but no impressions, at least.
I can scream like Regina George, no problem.
Yeah. She doesn't even go here.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on.
Too many good liners.
Yeah, there's a bunch of
if you're from Africa, why are you white?
Yeah, except they don't have that one in the second one.
No, we'll have it in the podcast instead.
Yeah. We're not politically correct here.
It's a great one line, regardless.
There were a lot of great one-liners in the original. I guess the biggest question is the expectations going into this one were on the floor.
They were on the floor.
And the question is going to be, do they remain on the floor?
You'll just have to keep listening.
Yeah. I think that we got the wrong girl to do a podcast because she hates movies in general too, but musicals on top of that as well. But we're back with another episode of Redo or reDON'T. I'm Kyle.
And I'm the girl who hates movies. I'm Kayla.
Yeah, the Kayla, the one who had expectations on the floor going into this week's podcast. So if you guys listened in because of the end of last week and the little teaser that Kayla left you with, and you're thinking, what movie is it? And is Kayla really going to hate it as much as she thinks? We got all the juicy answers for you this week.
We do. And I won't say whether I really hated it yet, but I think that answer is going to come out over the course of review. This. Yeah, within the next 5 minutes.
What's interesting about this one is we're fresh out of watching it. We just came back from the theater. We just saw it in theaters. It's been out for 2 days, right? It came out probably on Friday.
That's a good question, actually. I don't know when it came out.
Okay, I think it came out on Friday. January 12th is definitely when it came out. Is today the 14th?
Today is the 14th. Was it really?
Yeah.
So why do I feel like it's already been out for a long time?
No, it's only been out for 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So,
it's just been haunting me for so long now.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe the reason why you feel like it's been out longer is something that you and I talked about. And kind of a big critique that we have about this, the second film. So the original Mean Girls came out, did you say 2004?
2004, yeah.
So 2004, then they, I think fairly recently, made it into a Broadway musical.
2018.
In 2018, right. So in 2018, decided to take the script that Tina Fey wrote on the first movie and the first movie is a cult classic. People love that movie. Like we said, a lot of great one-liners. And it's hysterical. But then they made it into the musical in 2018. Now in 2024, the very beginning of 2024, they make a movie of the Broadway musical.
That's made off of the movie.
Right. So adaptations of adaptations. And the reason why you might feel like it's been around longer than it really has is because Mean Girls doesn't seem like it's been out that long. Like the one with Lindsay Lohan back in 2004 is still very relevant in today's like society. It's not like people don't know what that movie is or don't revisit it. It's like that movie definitely still like lives on, which is crazy for something to say. That's like I remember being a kid and watching that film. Like it's not like that's really, before our time or anything like that. It's like that's still very relevant.
Right. No, it came out when we were about 7 and I was probably watching that movie at 8.
Right. I was
maybe
say,
10,
Yeah,
like,
I mean probably 10. I'd say probably 10 too. My sisters, were around that age. If I was 10, they'd be in their late teens, right about 20, and again, it was a hysterical film for everybody. Back then,
And the way that I judge if something is relevant to the kids these days is I ask my sister, who is 15, and I asked her before we even went into seeing this movie, I said, how many times have you seen the original Mean Girls? And she said, and again, she's 15, so she's just kind of hitting that age that she'd be allowed to watch it. And she said that she's seen it easily 5 or more times.
Yeah.
So for her to see it 5 or more times, it's not anything that is old. It's not this movie that isn't talked about anymore and she just likes watching movies and she just wanted to watch a classic. No, it's still talked about. It still lives on. It's still one of the top movies that people want to see.
Because the type of movie that it is a high school comedy. And it's like, so anybody who is going through high school, regardless of when you go through high school, you know, when my sisters were going through it when it first came out in 2004, then when you and I were going through high school, like a few years later, and now when your sister's going through it now, it's still gonna hold up. Like, it's
easily.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but it's relevant to high schoolers' lives. It's
well, because
not
the
like
plot is nothing new.
Right.
The plot is a great plot because it's bullying is not going away. The mean
Wow.
girl. I know, maybe that's a hot take. I'm not saying it should stay, but I'm just saying girls will be girls.
Yeah,
And
there's gonna be
the
cliques.
mean girls, there's gonna be cliques. It's high school, and the mean girls. There's always going to be that group. There was that group when your sisters were in high school, I'm sure. I can speak for my high school. There were mean girls, and there's going to be it in my sister.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody who goes through, you know, it's different than like other high school films. You know, think about like Grease, even though that's another musical and whatever. There's still a little bit like, even back when that movie came out, there's still the cliches and the like same high school dramas. And
Right. It's a concept that's never going to change.
Right. So
it's always going to be relatable.
Exactly. So high schoolers, no matter when you're watching it, we can watch Grease right now. I mean, we're not in high school, but your sister could watch Grease right now and probably be like, yeah, there are some things that are relatable. The principal who is like tired of some of the jocks or some of the people who are playing pranks, you know, and it just is like a timeless idea. So it's like, why did they need to remake Mean Girls if people still watch it? Well, we didn't review, and it's not gonna be part of this review because I barely knew it until we were doing research on this film, is that there was a Mean Girls 2.
Yep.
Which didn't have any of the main cast other than Tim Meadows, the principal, who comes back, I guess, for like a cameo in that one. Do you have when that movie came out?
I can look that up. I saw it. I read it quickly, and I was like,
Yeah,
who has watched that
one again? Like, I didn't even know about it. I didn't know that they made a sequel because it clearly didn't have the commercial success or advertising.
When
you know?
you said that there was a Mean Girls 2, I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, it was a very brief. Oh my God, Jennifer Stone was in it. Megan Martin. Wait a minute. They just took Disney Channel sidekicks and made Mean Girls.
Maybe now you want to watch it.
Jennifer Stone, who played Harper, which is a
Yeah.
Waverly Place.
Yeah.
Megan Martin was in Camp Rock. She was Tess. It came out in 2011.
Oh, okay, 2011. So 7 years later, they really weren't decisive on whether or not they were going to make it, apparently. It took them 7 years, and then we're like, hey, let's try it. Kind of ahead of the reboot era on that one. Now, all they had to do is wait a few years and realize that in today's day and age, all people ever want is old ideas recycled and not new ideas.
I mean, it got a 4.1 rating, so that's a hit. That's what I'd give this new one, too. But
didn't get the commercial success or advertising that we were talking about. Like, people, I mean, if they did go and see it, which I don't think anybody really did, but if they did go see it, they clearly didn't like it, didn't hold up. We didn't review that, but it looks like the world gave that the reDON'T.
Oh my
4.1.
goodness, the girl from Life with Derek is in it. They honestly just took Disney Channel sidekicks
And threw
this in. This just should have been on Disney Channel.
Yeah. But so this one's different in the sense that, again, it's a remake, not a sequel, but it does, unlike Mean Girls 2, get some people to come back. Again, Tim Meadows can't say no to the Mean Girls world. He loves coming back for them.
He's dedicated.
He is dedicated. He might like the the character that he plays when he's the principal. But Tina Fey is very involved in this one, like she was in the first. She acts in it again. I believe she wrote the screenplay again for this one.
Yep, for both of them.
She comes back, and then a little spoiler alert, but it was just funny. I got to tell this story because no one knew, it wasn't advertised that Lindsay Lohan was going to come back.
That is a big spoiler.
I know.
They're
Listen,
keeping that a good secret right now.
We've never stared away from
why
spoilers
start
on this
now?
podcast.
No, I
the only
agree.
difference with this one, though, is that like it is fresh and new, so people who are listening to the podcast haven't. But Lindsay Lohan does come back, not obviously as Katie because it's a remake, so there's somebody else playing still the character of Katie. But she comes back. Would you call it a cameo?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, a cameo.
Yeah.
She has a cameo as the mathlete moderator at the end. Like, if anybody has seen, hopefully if you're listening, you've seen at least the first movie, where at the very end there, Lindsay, I guess Katie goes and joins the math team under Tina Fey's like request and wins it for them and realizes that's where she belongs and whatever. But in this one, Lindsay Lohan, comes back for a small role, a couple of minutes to play the moderator for it. And it was so funny because we didn't know. Kayla, I swear to God, her jaw hit the floor and she almost fell out of her seat.
It was a shock.
For the most of the movie, Kayla was sitting like this, arms crossed.
No
like,
facial
just phased.
expression.
And then all of a sudden, Lindsay Lohan comes on the screen and Kayla was like...
Because I had to do like a double take. I wasn't expecting it at all. And Lindsay Lohan doesn't look like she did when she filmed the original Mean Girls.
Oh, okay. So I disagreed with that. Like...
You can tell it's her, but she doesn't look the same.
Well, yeah, she's aged clearly, but you know who hasn't aged is Tina Fey. She looks exactly like she did in the first one.
And Tim Meadows.
Yeah. They both
100%.
They look exactly the same. But Lindsay Lohan, here's the funny part: is the people next to us in the theater were talking about it, and they're like, "Where is she from?" So I guess to your point,
next to you or next to me?
Next to me on my left. We're like. They were trying to figure it out. They're like, where is she from?
And those kids easily looked like they were 10 years younger than us.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But then eventually one of them was like, wait, no, she plays Katie in the first one. And then somebody goes, it's Lindsay Lohan.
Oh my God, someone raised them wrong. Sorry.
Well, again,
sorry, at least my sister would know who Lindsay Lohan is.
Well, but you're kind of debunking what I thought, because my initial reaction was like, yeah, it's Lindsay Lohan. Of course it's like... Yeah, that's why everyone in the audience is like gasping right now or laughing a little bit. But here you are saying like she doesn't look the same. So maybe it's understandable. I thought it was crazy that they didn't recognize her right away. You say maybe it's a little bit more understandable.
Yeah, no, she doesn't look the same. Hey, listen, the girl's gone through a lot. Like there's no judgment in my voice right now. I know what Lindsay Lohan has gone through, but she doesn't look the same.
But again, like enough that you wouldn't know that that's Lindsay Lohan.
I guess it depends on how many times the kids next to us, they were quite literally kids. I think it depends on how many times they've seen the original Mean Girls.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard them say it and I was like, are you kidding? Like here's Kayla on my right, almost falling out of her seat. Like, it's Lindsay Lohan. And then the people on my left are like, where is she from?
Oh,
she
God.
looks familiar.
Thank God they weren't next to me. I would have smacked them all. Luckily, the people next to me were older. Yeah, I would say they were probably even like, there was a woman who was probably like our parents' age, and then there was a girl who was about our age.
Yeah.
So they know. They were going in with the mindset and the knowledge of Mean Girls.
Everybody who's in that theater should have seen the first one. It wouldn't make sense if you're there for the first time not knowing what the first one is.
I would kind of disagree with that, only because it was such a Broadway hit. But
it was a Broadway hit because it had the first one that people loved.
If you're a, theater gal or whatever, and it kind of seemed like the people next to us were probably a little bit into theater. Again, no judgment in my voice. People can like theater. But if you are just so much a theater kid and Mean Girls, the musical on Broadway, I could see how they may not have seen the movie.
Maybe. So as far as the musical part of it right from the very beginning of this movie, I watched it and I was like, oh my God, it feels like this should be on a stage right now.
Yeah.
So for them to take it and then move it and put it into like on the big screen, it was almost kind of like, this type of thing shouldn't be really. Like, I know that they have musicals, but we talked about this in the car. Like, some musicals feel like they should be movies, and other ones feel like they should be on the stage. This one I was watching and I was like, it feels strange to be on the big screen and feels like it just should be on the stage. The choreography. Yeah.
They didn't adapt the script well.
No, they didn't.
In my opinion, but I hate musicals.
No, they didn't. It felt like they took exactly the same thing that happens and plays out on the stage and didn't change a single thing. They just put a camera and a set on it. It's like the same choreography, the same, movements of... It feels like you're walking back and forth on the stage rather than just like naturally flowing on a set.
And you brought up a good example, La La Land. is a beautiful musical, and it's actually one of my favorite movies. As I say, I hate musicals, but there is a difference between Broadway musicals and movie musicals, and La La Land is a great way. They keep the conversation going through music, and the words, like you were saying in the car again, the words in the song do correlate to what, as if we were just having a conversation, or as if the two, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, were just having a conversation. You know, the words in the song follow through. With Mean Girls, they would be mid-conversation, or at the very end, Katie's giving her acceptance speech of getting prom queen, and then she's talking, and then all of a sudden she just breaks out into song.
Yeah.
I'm like, where did we... What? Where's the transition? It wasn't smooth. And then there was another point. Was it in the gym, that scene when they're all, not when Janice has the song about like sticking the middle finger up to people, but there was another one where I was like, if they turn this into a song, I'm walking out of the theater. And then within seconds it started singing. What was that scene?
There was something that you were like, this is such a, no, it was when she's after the party. It's like when I can't slow down this car, I have a curfew.
Oh, yes. When it's Janice and Damien. And in the original one, he's driving the car and Janice is like, you dirty little, and I won't finish it for the podcast.
She's like, isn't she outside the sunroof or something like that?
Yes. And she like throws the painting at her. And Damien's like, I can't stop this car. I have a curfew. And they changed that scene entirely. And then she starts singing for a brief moment. And that is, yes, you are correct. That is the moment where I'm like, if they make this into a song and a dance, I'm walking out of the theater.
Right.
And I stayed till the end, but it took a lot in me.
Yeah. Well, thankfully you were in the middle of the aisle, so you couldn't really get it.
I know that I can't be that person that gets up and leaves, and then comes back.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've ever walked out of a movie. I was thinking that I wasn't thinking about it, but when you said I'm walking out, I was like, I don't know if I've ever walked out of a movie. But your point and your critique is exactly spot on. I was exactly what I was thinking, is that there were so many times in this movie, and I'm sure it's like this on Broadway because it's a little bit more acceptable on Broadway, but there were so many times where it was like, whoa, this song came out of nowhere and is not placed correctly. It seems, it was so like, whoa, there was, like we talked about it, like, there's momentum in the scene, and then it kind of gets killed by just a randomly placed song.
A very theatrical song.
Yeah. But like you said, when she's giving the speech of prom queen, that's like not like, who's thinking that's the right time, right? Mid-sentence.
Right.
To break into song.
Yeah.
Mid-sentence break into song is not like a smart or well-placed like idea for a song, and it felt like that. There were so many times I looked at you.
Song.
No, not every song, but there were so many where I looked and I was like, that was weird. It kind of just randomly broke into song at the weirdest of times. Like, it was not well placed. Maybe a little bit more acceptable on a Broadway
right
musical.
It would be it would be, because that's how Broadway works.
Right, but in a movie, when you're mid-conversation and then when it cuts back to the other person, all of a sudden they're now singing and have dancers behind them, and you're like,
what?
Wait, yeah.
Where did you come from?
Yeah, this sounds like we missed something. Like, did I black out? And now I'm jumping back in. And
I think there's also a difference. There's a difference between Broadway and theatrical music and how it's placed in a movie. I also think there is a difference between Broadway acting and TV acting. And I give credit to two people, technically one. So if you don't know, Renee Rapp, she plays Regina George in the 2024 musical. She was Regina George on Broadway. So they really just kept her for this movie. I give her a lot of credit because there is a difference between theater acting and TV acting. And theater acting is you're very animated and you gotta, the people way in the back need to be able to see your expressions. So
yeah, you
I get why they do it. Right. They're very, the word, theatrical about it.
Right.
I thought Renee Rapp did a really great job at not bringing the theatrics from the Broadway show into the movie. I thought she was a great TV actor. Granted, she's been on things on TV before, so she kind of knows both.
Yeah.
But I don't think she took, I guess I've never seen Mean Girls on Broadway, so I don't know how she acted in that.
No, but you would know what Broadway acting looks like.
Right,
and I don't think this wasn't it.
And I think there was a lot of Broadway acting. The person who played Janice, I think she had a lot of Broadway acting in her. I was like, all right, let's take it down a little bit. Right. But Renee did a great job. The only other person that I think did a great job is because he was never on Broadway, and that's my boy Chris Briney, my Conrad Fisher.
Yeah.
I love him so much, Team Conrad.
He could do a million things wrong, and you would still be praising him. You love him.
I do. But I guess I can't give him praise because he wasn't on Broadway before this.
Right. He's just doing what he's always done.
He's just acting, right. So I do give Renee Rapp a lot of credit because I felt like the theatrics stayed on Broadway, and she took Regina George and made it Regina George. And she was natural with her acting, and it wasn't over the top, and it was just bitchy enough, and she played it well.
Well, yeah, it seemed like she was trying to use Rachel McAdams as a blueprint, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Good.
Yeah. But
no one can do it the way that Rachel McAdams can.
Right. But, you know, this movie certainly pulls, like, very much so from the original film, which it makes sense it would, right? It's an adaptation of the musical, which pulled from the film. But it goes to, like, has certain lines that stay the exact same, like certain jokes.
If you compare the outfits were almost the exact same.
Really?
Yep. So, especially with Regina George.
Okay, see, that's interesting right there. Like, so even more to the point of, like, then why even remake it? You're not trying to do anything different.
I would love to know.
The only thing you're doing different is adding songs. That's the only thing different. Other things are complete carbon copies.
I would love to know what Tina Fey actually changed. And in an interview, she did say, naturally, she changed the jokes because when she was writing Mean Girls, she was pulling from her comedy that she learned in, like, the 80s and prior years. And she made the characters fit to what people would be joking about in 2024. And it's unfortunately not the same as what it was in 2004. So I get why she changed it. I think maybe there would have been a little bit more backlash had she kept some of those jokes from 2004. She adjusted. But aside from the jokes, I think she barely edited the script between two movies.
She really didn't. But again,
it's exactly the same.
It's almost like she, like, you know, changed the jokes, basically redacted jokes that just wouldn't fly now.
Right, and just,
because you and I, again, when it was mostly like a carbon copy of the first one, well, therefore we kind of knew what to expect. Like that, I thought that I remembered that movie well. We didn't watch it before this one.
I didn't need to.
No, but that's the thing. I thought I remembered it well. You remembered it even better. But we were like,
that's one of the movies that I can quote as it's on.
I thought that I could.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good with it. But we were like looking at each other, and I'd lean over to you and be like, hey, they just cut out a line that's a great joke. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, they did. And then 10 minutes later, you'd be like, they just cut out this line.
Yeah.
She was like kind of redacting things that are like, oh, this wouldn't age well, so we can't put this in. Like, if you're from Kenya, then why are you white?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, you can't call her white, Karen.
Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
Right. We're not shying away from it here on the podcast. But
someone else wrote it, not me. I'm just quoting it.
Yeah. No, I mean, they certainly redacted some things. And then they redacted things that weren't even, like, politically incorrect. They just cut out some things like that would be fine, but I don't know.
What was the quote that you were like, why did they even get rid of this?
Yeah, it was
with the principal.
Yeah. So the principal's like lecturing the school in the gym when they discover the burn book, and no one's like answering up, and he's like, I will sit here all day if I have to. And then some teacher leans in and is like, we can only keep him here until 4. And he goes, I will keep you here until 4.
And then in that same scene, they were like, raise your hand if you've ever been personally victimized by Regina George.
Right, they cut
that out. But
yeah.
Regina George is the mean girl.
Yeah, and then when Janice is like up there reading her her regret or her apology, she normally at the end says like, I don't know, Regina, maybe it's because I have this huge obsessive lesbian crush on you. And they cut that out, and instead they throw in a song.
Yeah, a whole long song.
You know, so I don't know. Those are like some of the one-liners that you and I love. That we were like, why did they cut that out? It's not like
because with Janice too, they kept the plot that back when they were young, Regina and Janice were best friends, and then Regina called Janice a lesbian.
Yeah,
they kept that plot, but then they took that quote out
and was saying that like she's obsessive and everything. Like that's why that line
it fits.
Yeah, it's so funny when she says it.
Because it's just like a throwing it back at you.
Right,
it's like, here are your words. Maybe you're right.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's funny about it.
Yeah,
but
they cut out some things they didn't really need to.
They didn't. And then the big change that I noticed that actually pissed me off throughout the movie was the use of social media in the movie.
Yeah.
I know we're all over our phones and social media is so big, and that's the way that trends change and rumors kind of fly through social media. That's how things spread. but it was almost too excessive in this movie. It was, they were singing, but they were making a TikTok.
Yeah.
Or they were going live on, it looked like TikTok, could have been Instagram, their version of the social media page. But they were going live. They were making videos for social media. They were taking photos of the burn book and they were spreading it around on social media. The use of it in this movie was huge.
Yeah.
And the use of it wasn't the same in 2004 in real life nor in the movie. And I get that it's grown so much and it's what we rely on now. But it was almost done too much. When Karen is singing and she's getting ready, in the original Mean Girls, I'm thinking of the Halloween scene specifically, she's just looking in the mirror and she's putting a K on her chest in rhinestones and she puts it in backwards because, she's looking at herself in the reflection and she's supposed to be stupid. So then when someone's looking at it, it's backwards. It's just simple things like that. But now in the 2024 version, instead of just getting ready in Regina's bedroom, she's getting ready and doing like a get ready with me, which then she would post on social media.
Yeah.
So it was almost overkill as social media use. Just, I think, stuff that didn't necessarily need to. There were cameos that from big TikTokers. You said it. Isn't that Megan Thee Stallion? And I'm like, yeah, it was. There were a few other people that if you're familiar with TikTok, Chris Olsen being one of them. Nia, she was on Dance Moms. She made a cameo in it. And it was just them making videos of get ready with me's, or when Regina got hit by the bus, people were making reviews of if Katie pushed her or not.
Right.
I think it was an overkill use of social media. It's one thing to just have phones being out, but it's another to actually make it an entire point of the movie.
No, that's definitely not just you. It was overdone.
Yeah.
Certainly was overdone. But I mean, that's probably what Tina Fey's talking about in that interview of like she had to make it modern to what high schoolers would be doing these days. Like, so that's why it probably was done. It wasn't. No, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a good attribute to the movie. It was annoying.
It wasn't even as though the camera filmed the actress who played Karen through the lens. Like if there was a legit camera behind my phone right now and it was filming my phone film me, they just filmed it on the screen. It was just as if it was a vertical video.
It's supposed to just feel it's supposed to feel like you're watching their TikTok video, and it wasn't like a good addition to it at all.
It was just kind of I don't know, unnecessary.
I don't know. One last thing that I want to like drag this through the mud on, and then I want to hear the reviews, is like we said it, the music is really, the songs are bad, which is sad because that's probably what the songs are on Broadway, and the songs are not good. Like,
I have hot takes with Broadway though, so like.
Well, yeah, but like I Am Regina George is probably supposed to be like the banger of
That's the only one I liked.
Oh, I didn't even like that one.
Oh, I liked it because it's
like
so simple. And is that the name of it, or is it World Burn?
Oh, I don't know the name of it.
I think
I just was saying it, she says over and over and over again, I am Regina George.
And then it leads into the scene where she talks about wanting to watch the world burn, and she's going to pour the gas or something like that. Yeah, I guess I don't know the name to it. Yeah, that was the only one that I kind of liked.
Oh,
I'm
I didn't even like that one.
Girl.
But then there's one where she's like going, Karen.
Oh, the Halloween
it was
one.
So bad. Oh. The Halloween one where she's talking about being like a sexy mouse is so bad. Like awful.
And I really hated the beginning when Katie first goes to the high school.
And about math.
Oh, no, I wasn't even thinking that one.
She has one about how she loves math.
The math one was bad. No, it was the very first one that she sang, and they kind of had like the background dancers.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they were
she's
just like
going into
doing
the
a
school.
little dance as she's going into the school. And it was like, we're off to a really bad start.
Yeah, the songs were bad. They were really bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about how they were terrible.
I didn't like it.
No. But what were the reviews?
So it did kind of well.
Well, the new one.
They're comparable.
The new one is so new.
It's new that I don't have like the full box office.
Okay,
yet,
fair
obviously.
enough. I understand why. Yep.
Because the Mean
I'll let
Girls,
it slide.
Gee, thanks. Sorry, I'm not like a critic who just can get you numbers.
Call them on the phone and ask them what they think.
Hi, critics. Can we talk? The 2004 Mean Girls. The box office was $130.1 million. Right now, debut weekend was $28 million for the new one.
Okay.
Mean Girls in 2004 got a 7.1 on IMDb. Got an 84% Rotten Tomatoes score. And then Mean Girls for 2024 on IMDb, it got a 6.4. So got a little dip in numbers there.
Yeah.
And then it was a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
But the audience score was about the same on Rotten Tomatoes. One was 67 and the other one was like 66 or something like that.
I feel like, so 67 being low for Mean Girls, the original, is low. Like, I thought, like, I mean, the first two make sense. 84% Rotten Tomatoes, 7.1 on IMDb. Like, I thought, people love it. And 67, I guess, is still good.
I would say that it's probably because it's a comedy.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it because it has the one-liners, but when you're looking at the movie as a whole, I can see why it got that.
Yeah. You're not like, this is the most amazing, beautiful piece of art and an epic.
I would call it, but again, the critics, they have different. They don't like, I'm convinced they don't like comedies.
No, they don't. But definitely the consensus is the first one's better, as it should be.
As it should be. I wouldn't even give it that high. I said a 4.5 out of 10 was my rating.
I'd give it around a 5 if I had to give it on. Yeah, we don't do that here on this show though. We do redo or we don't.
Well, if we had to compare, call me a critic now.
No, but before we get to that, I mean, I think we made it clear throughout, but because we said it multiple times, but certainly not necessary. The first one from 2004 is still very relevant in today's. If you need to go watch a movie, if you're gonna pick one of the two, go watch the regular Mean Girls.
Right, it's phenomenal.
Not like it's gonna feel like that's for old people or that's outdated or that's anything. It is still very much so. If you told me that film came out in 2013, 2014, I'd believe you. It doesn't feel like it's outdated now.
And you made a good point when we were walking out of the movie. You said that if they needed to film the Broadway Mean Girls for whatever reason, film it in the style that they did Hamilton.
Yeah, where you film
the musical in the theater.
On the stage.
Because then you're going to get the authenticity of a Broadway show.
Yeah.
You're not getting it with this movie.
No.
Because it's just poorly done in the sense that they should have made it a movie musical, in my opinion, and they didn't, so then you just kind of lose that. But it's just, if you need it to be filmed, which you didn't, you could have just had the Broadway actors film it the way that Hamilton did.
Yeah, 100%. I think that would have been better.
I certainly would not have watched that.
No. But for people who wanted to, it would make more sense. This screen adaptation doesn't feel... It probably would have been better if you watched it, like a Hamilton style where they film the Broadway musical. So I was about to give it the review, which I've done before, which is not the redo or the reDON'T. I just kind of been impartial to it and whatever. But I'm going to give it the reDON'T because of that last segment of is it necessary and the answer being no. It is really just why did we even have to make this? We don't need it. If you felt like you needed to make it into a musical, leave it on Broadway. But you certainly, I don't think you even needed to make it into a musical.
No.
So just leave the Lindsay Lohan movie as, if you want to leave it, as a theatrical release. You have the 2004 version for that.
If it was 2054 and they remade it as a musical, fine. 50 years is enough time.
Yeah, it was just the fact that it's so unnecessary is why it tips the scale for me, where I'm like, okay, it's just a reDON'T.
When I said that the bar was on the floor, I was correct. I knew I wasn't going to like it, and I just simply didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
100%.
And I don't even blame you in the sense of you didn't give it a fair chance. It's no, I get why you wouldn't. The music wasn't good. It kind of is a disservice to the original.
If they filmed it and incorporated the music again, say La La Land does, then maybe I would have liked it a little bit more. But La La Land just has beautiful music and they incorporate it well. And I do think there's, again, I think my problem is there is a difference, and maybe I'm entirely wrong, but if you are writing music for a Broadway show, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be different if it was written for a movie. Mm-hmm. It almost seems like there's that difference in writing style. Again, I don't know if it's true, and I can't compare it to Mamma Mia, which is, one of my top 5 favorite movies, because it was already music. It's ABBA songs, right. So ABBA just made the music, probably never anticipating it to be in a musical. But again, I think that's why I like it. It was already music in the first place. It wasn't written for Broadway or it wasn't written for television, and they just incorporated it nicely. Yeah. But this one did not do any of that. It was okay, we're talking. Okay, now we're singing.
Yeah. So reDON'T.
Yeah, I don't like it.
reDON'T. Okay. Anything that you're watching? You're
No.
watching this. You went to go see this. And,
Yes, we went to go see Mean Girls. I feel like I have seen more movies in the theater recently than I have in a long time because we just recently saw Anyone But You as well. No, still plugging away at The Crown. That's kind of taken up a lot of my time. Now that I saw Chris Briney, do I need to go back and watch The Summer I Turned Pretty? Probably.
You're never allowed to talk about The Crown ever again on this segment.
That's all I watch. You know, that's all I got.
And
When
I
I
read-
stick with something, I finish it all the way through and then I start something new. I can't watch multiple things at a time. So, I'll let you know when I finish The Crown, and until then, I'm not watching anything new. That's not the way my brain works.
Mine isn't even anything that I'm watching that's new. It's just something that's going on in the world right now. The thing that I want to talk about is, in the past week, they've announced that Top Gun 3 is going to get made. They announced one of the main actors from Suits, Patrick J. Abrams. So he plays Mike Ross in Suits, and the other main character is Harvey Specter. And the two actors who play the main characters came out to do a presentation at the Golden Globes last week, and it's like the only reason why they had those two, that show's been done for years. The only reason why they had those two come out is because Suits got such a big following in Netflix recently, so now they bring those two out, and they made a joke about how like it took some years for them to get the recognition that they, why is this show just getting recognition now? And Patrick J. Abrams said that he would come back for like a spin-off or a continuation or like a sequel series to the show with Meghan Markle. And it's like Meghan Markle is not going to come back for that, but like,
I hope not.
Yeah, but he wants it to keep living on now that it's getting, a resurgence through Netflix. And then there's a movie that came out, back in the early 2000s called 28 Days Later, and it's with Cillian Murphy. And it's kind of his breakout performance. It's about it's a zombie thriller. He's the world's going through an apocalypse and he has to survive. And there was a 28 Weeks Later sequel 5 years after the original one. And now it hasn't been touched in 2007. And now they're talking about coming out with 28 Years Later because...
Well, that's kind of funny.
Well, yeah, but because... why do you think that is? Because Cillian Murphy just won a Golden Globe and is probably going to win an Oscar. And so now that they're like, hey, we had him first, let's try to get him to come back, and people will certainly go watch it. It's only for money reasons. They know if we make it and we could get Cillian Murphy to star, people would want to go see it because Cillian Murphy is hot right now in the industry.
Right.
He's about to be an Oscar winner. If we get him to come back, people are going to go watch it. And let's not make a new idea. Let's just reuse one that we used in 2002.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
I don't know. That's 3 in the past week that either are getting another sequel or another spinoff or are in the talks of, And it just goes to show, like, to the point that we're making on this podcast is that the reboot era isn't stopping anytime soon. They are certainly running with the ideas of like, hey, let's just keep making, what's the new movie going to be this week that's getting a remake from 30 years ago? So...
At least Anyone But You, when we saw that, it was like a fresh, I can't really say idea because all rom-coms are about the same, but it was, fresh actors and actresses.
Yeah.
And it was new.
Yeah. But, hey, listen, if those, if/when those 3 get their, their next installment, we'll review it on the podcast.
Oh, I would love to see Top Gun 3.
I know you would. And you wanted to watch Suits. Maybe after The Crown... I know you wanted to watch Suits. Maybe you'll get through that, and then if they make a reboot for that, we'll watch that too.
Yeah, I don't really like Meghan Markle. I want to watch Suits because again, it's the popular show right now, and I just kind of gravitate towards popular shows. Although I'm quite late to The Crown, but I don't like Meghan Markle.
You'd like it, but
I'll try to look at her.
I'll try to get Kayla to watch it so that we can then review on the podcast. But next week, I don't think the bar is as low.
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a musical next week. So
thank God.
Yeah. So, but stick around next week for what we got for you.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks.